MIB is perceived as a scary thing from an advisor perspective. We're not. So I would definitely say our goal is to be helpful, and we are only focusing on continuing that helpfulness to the industry as a whole. I would say to all the agents out there, keep doing what you're doing. We understand and appreciate everything that you do. We wouldn't have a job without you, and appreciate the opportunity to be on here.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CBS Spotlight. If you are here by mistake, you are in the right place now. I am Eric Alvarado, my co-host, Mr. Jack Elder, head of advanced sales here at CBS Brokerage, and we are your friendly guides through this world of insurance and wealth management. And today we are joined by the Executive Vice President and Chief Operating Officer over at MIB, Miss Andrea Caruso. Thank you, Andrea, for joining us today. We really appreciate your time. So, Jack, go ahead and take it away.
Andrea, thanks so much for joining us, as Eric said. Before we get into MIB, would love to hear more about you. Where did you come from, and how did you get to where you are?
Sure, no problem. It's been a little bit of a whirlwind. I think I really grew up in the insurance industry. I started quite young, right out of school, needed a job, interviewed with a couple of different places. Fortunately, I ended up at a growing brokerage general agency at the very bottom of the proverbial ladder. So started looking up files, making sure that things were in order for the case managers to actually process applications on behalf of their clients, and got very interested in what we did and frankly what the insurance industry stood for, and saw this as a great opportunity to really grow and invest in myself. So worked my way up, ended up working as a case manager in underwriting, contracting, compliance, commissions, and ultimately within sales. Had the wonderful opportunity to work with both you and Eric. So it is a small world that we all live in. And after being there for over 25 years, I ended up jumping over to MIB. And as Eric mentioned, it really questioned a lot of people as to why in the world would I make that move. But I will say it's been a wonderful opportunity. It really allowed me to bring the brokerage perspective, and my ultimate goal was to be able to be more impactful from an industry-wide perspective. So love what I'm doing and happy to share that with you.
What does they say? If you love what you do, you don't have to work a day in your life, something like that?
They do say that. I don't think those people actually work, but that's okay.
Yeah, they don't have jobs. Right. They work in like an English faculty department or something. So where does MIB, because the viewers or listeners are insurance agents, sometimes they're fiduciaries, and they may not know exactly where MIB fits into the life insurance ecosystem. Where do you fit in, and what does MIB mean to advisors and their clients?
So MIB is not this top secret organization, and contrary to what my kids said, I did not go working for a super alien invaders or something along those lines. They thought that was the coolest thing when I decided to change jobs. But MIB really is we'll call it at the core of the insurance industry. So we've been around for over 125 years. The initial focus was on fraud detection. The great opportunity associated with that was we already had the trust of the insurance industry, which is one of the hardest things to really get. So it was an amazing thing. When I joined, we were able to talk to more insurance companies than I ever even knew existed. So there's well over 300 and some insurance companies within the United States and Canada, which is who MIB represents. And our focus has really been, like I mentioned, on that fraud detection on the front end. But then over the last couple of years, we've really tried to grow that exposure and value well beyond that into enhancing the ability to gather requirements faster, to gain access to more information, and really help with from a digitization perspective or otherwise. So really all of those different things ends up being able to help agents, being able to help clients have access to information in a much more expeditious fashion, as well as really focusing on how can we help them keep costs down, which, as every agent knows, the goal is how can you be able to sell insurance to more people because there's such a added value associated with it.
B stands for?
I'm sorry?
What does MIB stand for? It stands for?
MIB used to stand for the Medical Information Bureau. However, MIB's name is purely just MIB at this point in time. It's a great question because we do still get that. People will say, what exactly does it stand for? And we are purely MIB is MIB.
It's just a legacy name. So it
It is
used
a
to stand
legacy
for,
name. Yep.
got it, got it. And so you mentioned technology and how those technological enhancements enter at the carrier level through you all, right, as a part of this life insurance ecosystem, and that eventually benefits the end consumer and advisors who are providing insurance solutions to their clients. Are there any specific technological advances that you guys are behind or helping bring to market that advisors would find interesting or need to know about?
Yeah, so when we first started, probably the last 5 years ago. So if you look, most companies start with like a 5 year plan or something along those lines. One of the things that was ironic was we were right in the middle of COVID. So along with COVID was the need for how do we access information? How do we make sure things can get signed and submitted? So that way this industry could continue at the pace that it wanted to in light of people not being able to meet face to face and the companies not being open, which was a really big challenge. So we ended up looking externally and said, how can MIB be part of that solution? Again, going back to how can we value or provide value at a broader level. And we ended up acquiring an organization called PSG, or Paperless Solutions Group at that point in time. PSG's focus was almost exclusively on the digital environment. So we've been working with them on how can we bring broader capabilities. So they kind of expand the market from, and most agents are familiar with, how do you capture applications electronically? How are you transmitting information back and forth? Because unfortunately, most applications aren't submitted in good order or with complete requirements or paperwork along those lines. So how can you make sure that's captured seamlessly but also compliantly? How can you ensure medical information is captured as quickly as possible? So I know back when I used to work in that area, APSs or attending physician statements could take 30 to 45 days if you were lucky to actually gain access. And right now we can get them in minutes. So all of that information streamlines processes, which ultimately I believe are a big value to advisors and agents and ultimately consumers, because people just aren't patient anymore. People want more immediate responsiveness and turnaround time, and they're looking for a drop the ticket. Sometimes those exist. Unfortunately, sometimes those don't. So the more that we can provide accurate, easy information that underwriters and carriers can use to make decisions and help get these cases placed faster, the better for everybody.
So you mentioned fraud detection and that's in kind of like MIB's DNA. And you mentioned compliance and you mentioned information protection and security. So I kind of want to ask you about that because MIB is a leader in the insurance space in making sure clients' information is protected. Do you have a message for advisors or clients around how their data, whether it's their financial or medical data, is protected throughout the insurance process?
MIB is very aware of the need, whether it be from a HIPAA perspective. Everybody's aware of HIPAA. Every time you go to the doctor, you have to find something that really talks about protection. We're also aware from a security perspective the need to make sure that we are not in violation. And frankly, we have as many firewalls and everything else up as possible to ensure that our data is compliant, captured, and safe. So we have information on clients all across the United States and Canada, as I mentioned. So we do have a very robust platform.
You probably have some medical information on what percentage of the United States, if you were just to guess.
Oh, I have no idea. This was not a question I
10%?
was prepared for.
No, I know,
I
I know.
would say
Sorry.
if you think about it, we get about 10 million applications a year. So
Okay.
yeah, so if you think of utilizing 10 million as a rough annual benchmark, a lot. Now, sometimes there's duplication, sometimes there's clients that apply for multiple applications across the board, but a high propensity. And one of the things that is very important is making sure that we can capture the necessary information so that carriers have a good awareness. So again, it's not intended as a scary thing that there's a lot of data,
Mhm.
but it is a help because when we're able to help the insurance companies with that data, they don't need to go back and get it again, or they don't need to
Mhm.
actually work with multiple other carriers to try and gain some insights. We can help provide it as seamlessly as possible.
This lowers costs, increases efficiencies, and helps protect client data.
It,
So it's a very good thing.
it does, as much as nobody loves increasing costs. Look at where we've all been as we all watch different cost implications. No one loves costs going up. But imagine how expensive things would be if there was even more challenges associated with whether it be fraud or whether it be with a lack of awareness of information or just the amount of effort if they have to hire more people to access the
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So the more that we can help with that, and we're not the only entity that does that, but the more that we can help with that from all the insurance companies, that definitely trickles down to the advisors and the costs associated with it.
Makes sense. So, Andrea, your background is in, among many things, because you've done every job in the general agency, like in the life insurance world. Underwriting is a big part of your background. And when I met you, you were in underwriting, and um, and then MIB is a critical component in the underwriting process in terms of, as we've covered, providing, storehousing medical information, protecting medical information, and not necessarily sharing medical information, but increasing efficiencies across life insurance companies. So underwriting is a big part of your background and your current role. What do you see happening in the next few years? Any new trends emerging on the underwriting side that you think life insurance advisors or clients would be interested in hearing about?
There's so many requests for data and so many different types of vendors out there right now. I would say one of the biggest challenges is weeding through all of them. So more is not always better. Ensuring that we can help all of the carriers and all of our clients have access to the data that they determine that they need. Keep in mind, there's no level of consistency either. So as part of those 300 and some companies, everybody has different requirements. Everybody views things a little bit differently, whether it's for actuarial needs, whether it's for how they underwrite. Everybody has different desires. One thing
You
that is,
say that, you mean like every carrier might look at hypertension differently, or obesity, or
yeah,
cancer.
they'll look at what we could categorize as impairments. They'll look at
Yeah,
impairments differently, but also it's the level of items that they need in order to be able to do the evaluation. So some might say, I need access to prescription database checks. I mean, need access to medical records. I need access to claims. I need access to multiple different elements out there. Some use some general scoring that they actually do based off of information that they've been able to garner off of their different data sets. So there's a lot of different things that are used in the determination and the ultimate risk classification at an underwriting level. But one thing that is really starting to gain more traction is the need for automation. Again, starting with COVID, even before COVID, you really saw more automated underwriting at certain levels. Then there was kickouts. Those kickouts have really started to minimize a bit. Underwriting automation levels have increased, which has been helpful from a straight through perspective. But now you see AI coming into place. And the questions about, is AI really going to be utilized, and where, and how can we make sure that all the information you're getting is really client specific? I think that you're going to have some assessments on carriers reassessing where and what requirements they will or will not be using. There's a couple carriers out there that are starting to get rid of agent amount requirements, that are doing, we'll call it right size underwriting, that really is more geared towards the particular client and what's going on with them. And then they'll decide what requirements may or may not be needed. So I think you're going to start seeing some
can you give
shifts
me an
that have to be
example of what you
about.
mean?
As an example, so normally you would look at, from an agent perspective, you'd look at an age amount requirement chart, and it would say for this age and for this face amount, here's the 7 or 8 different items that you might need. Some companies are looking at throwing that out the window. Some have already done it. And with that being thrown out the window, let's make sure that we're only requesting the data items that we believe are needed based off of you. So you could have certain medical histories. You could have no medical history. So maybe I do or don't need lab work that's done or something else. So that's really where I would see age amount requirements is really up for grabs these days. Some companies are a little bit further down that path than others, but also as you're looking at the different items that are even being needed, making sure that they make sense and that more is not always better. So I think that over time, people will really start assessing what all they need, stop ordering 7 or 8 different items,
So
and come
that's where I
down
was
to
about to
a
go.
couple.
How does this affect an advisor who wants to provide insurance solutions to the client? Sounds like it would be an enhancement to their practice.
I think it's
Less
an improvement.
time. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you look at the benefit of the age amount requirements is you can explain to your advisor exactly what they need. So the con of not having them is you can't necessarily set those expectations. The con of having the age amount requirements is you always have to get all of those items. The benefit of not is you might not need as many requirements. So it's a little bit of expectation setting. So again, I go back to, if the goal of the advisor is to be able to provide the best opportunity for your client in a streamlined fashion, this could help, but it also is making sure that they can set the stage appropriately with the client will be a very important element.
Makes sense. So all of these things, MIB, is in the background, providing solutions and communication between these carriers, and it's always growing and getting better. At least that's the job description, and that's where we're heading, to make the end client's experience better. And you're seeing change, like enhancements, improvements. I mean, I'm asking you a positive leading question because I've seen it in my career, throughout my career, and on how it improves the client and the advisor experience.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of positive improvements within the industry. So they're becoming more savvy. They're really trying to assess things. They're becoming more collaborative as well, which is really exciting from my perspective because the more that the insurance industry continues to stand on their own, but also really come together for the benefit of the industry, for the benefit of the clients, and for the benefit of the agents, the more powerful it becomes. So MIB's role with that is how can we help with that? We have an advisory board that is comprised of multiple different insurance companies across the board, all different sizes, all different perspectives, so that we look at things on a broader basis. And our goal with them is, I've said to many people, help meet our clients, which in most instances are the insurance companies, help meet them where they are today and help provide them with guidance to where they want to be in the future. So by having that global view, it really does allow us to work with them to identify where they could have broader opportunities to become more efficient, more effective, and faster to market, ultimately helping the advisor and the client.
Love it. Well, thank you very much for joining today. I hope you enjoyed talking about what you do. I think, when I didn't know, I just knew about like medical information. They provide codes so that if you lie on your application, the life insurance company will find out. That's all I thought MIB did for the longest time. But it's fun
Yeah.
and fascinating to hear about all the different things that you do to provide enhancements.
It
Um,
was MIB is perceived as a scary thing from an advisor perspective. We're not. So I would definitely say our goal is to be helpful, and we are only focusing on continuing that helpfulness to the industry as a whole.
Well, this concludes CBS Spotlight. Andrea, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed talking about MIB and all the great things you're doing. I know I learned a lot, and I appreciate you stopping by today.
No, it was my pleasure, and I would say to all the agents out there, keep doing what you're doing. We understand and appreciate everything that you do. We wouldn't have a job without you, and appreciate the opportunity to be on here. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you so much, Andrea and Jack. This has been CBS Spotlight, your friendly conversation about insurance and wealth advising come together. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you found this information helpful, please like and subscribe to our show. Take care. We'll see you next time.